Have you ever questioned everything you ever learned until now? You are not alone. Welcome to Mystical Mavericks, a tribe that embraces your uniqueness and superpower. Discover how you can access your innate gifts and create a reality of fulfillment, purpose, and passion. Are you ready to go within to win? Discover the keys to success on The Mystical Mavericks Show.
Welcome, Mystical Mavericks, to another incredible moment in time with a beautiful, beautiful soul. Now, let me ask you this. Have you heard of this empire and business called Keller Williams Real Estate? Keller Williams? Well, I guess what? We have with us the heartbeat and the creator and co-founder of Keller Williams itself, the one who created this legacy of real estate brokerage. And obviously, he's going to amplify the importance of why you should be a creator and entrepreneurs, and obviously key and principle to success in a very beautiful, direct way. So let's welcome Joe Williams.
Mission accomplished, Joe. Is this the grand finale for you? You've accomplished your mission on Earth. Are you happy with what you accomplished? Or is there so much more to do? Because, the purpose in life, isn't it what we're here to do? Maybe not. You can answer this question, but I want to know from you what you feel about this. Is your big mission already accomplished, and then there is more as far as your purpose here on Earth?
I think everybody, if you're really alive and thinking about what you're doing all the time, I think you have to kind of reinvent yourself every 8, 9, 10 years or so. And so, once you hit a certain plateau, then you kind of look around and go, what else would I like to do? And for me, I've always been that way. Because I just like to put things together. And if you're one of those people that likes to put things together, then you're constantly working on projects.
That is very enlightening, because a lot of entrepreneurs, they would, they would achieve their big success. Now they have their $2 million, whatever their goal was. And then they're just like, coast.
Right.
Because all of a sudden they feel like, So it's important, I feel, because we are multidimensional like this. And what you say was key, because you said, the first thing you said was, which really touched me, was, if you're truly alive. You said that.
Yeah.
If you're alive, if you're here now, you keep.
Well, I'll share something that I've used this to kind of when you look at life in general. There was a guy, and I don't remember his name. I'm sure if I Googled him, I can find the data. But what he did, he wrote a college thesis. And the gist of the thesis was to go find 100 people who were 100 years old. So what do you call that? An octogenarian? I can't remember.
Sure.
And then what he did, he basically interviewed them all, and he asked them one question. And the question was, what would you do if you could do it all over again? And he said there were 3 main points that they made. Point number 1, I would have risked more. I would have grabbed for the brass ring. I would have called Oma and
Ooh.
asked her to the high school prom. You know what I
Whew.
mean? I mean, it was interesting
Unbelievable.
the things that they knew
Mm.
in their life
Mhm.
that they realized they never did and they probably should have done it.
Mm.
Okay.
Oof.
And you can only get that when you know, you get to an advanced stage and you look back and you
Mhm.
go, damn, why did I do that? So that was number one. I would have risked more. Number two
Mhm.
was I would have lived every day better.
Mm.
Okay. I would have gotten up in the morning and realized that life is probably the most incredible thing out there.
Mm.
And I've got a life. What am I going to do with it today
Mm.
to fulfill my destiny, whatever that's going to be? How do I impact people better today? How do I enjoy what Mother Nature has put before me? How do I live every day to the fullest? And it's interesting that he said that. He said he heard that from just about everybody.
Mm.
The last thing they said, and I thought this was good too,
Mm.
they wanted when they were dead and gone, they wanted to leave something behind so everybody knew they'd been here. Whether
Mm.
it was your children or a project that lived on past you, or, you know, could be physical, a house, whatever,
Mhm.
but they created something that years from now, people would say, I remember that guy. He was a good guy.
Mm.
He did this or he did that or whatever.
Mm.
And so when you look at those three things, they're really good lessons about how everybody needs to, you know,
Mm.
look at life today. And it doesn't matter, Oma, it doesn't matter what the circumstances are.
Mm.
As you said earlier, well, things are different from 10 years ago. Well, they are and they aren't. Certain things about life never really change,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
It's kind of like a conversation I had with a bunch of high school juniors the other day. They were talking about the Constitution of the United States. And they said, well, you know, it really doesn't apply today. That the document's 200 years old. And I told them, I said, listen, if you go back and you read the books that have to do with the letters that the founding fathers wrote about how they felt as they were drafting the
Mm.
Constitution,
Mm.
what you would learn is everything in that Constitution is as apropos today
Mm.
as it was 200 years ago. It's a living document. It really is.
Beautiful.
And the reason it is that human nature rarely changes.
Mm.
It rarely changes.
It does.
When we're teaching real estate to real
Mm.
estate agents, I tell them there are 4 basic rules to follow in any sales job. And one of those is that rule number 2 is everything changes except human nature.
See, you speak the truth. This is why it was important for you to show up like this. You speak the truth. And sometimes the truth is difficult. It's a difficult pill to swallow for some people because the ego is in the way. You show up, tremendous legacy that you build. We know, tremendous, beyond names, numbers, beyond forms, tremendous. You show up like this, and then you start speaking, and you don't speak from your mental, you speak direct. You know, so few people are capable of like this sitting and then drilling and transmitting the truth like this.
Well, they have to have some core values that they live from. And what I'm saying, Oma, in terms of that,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's let's go back to that same high school group. It was a group of juniors in high school. And I was trying to explain, I said, let me illustrate about human nature. And what I do, I go up to the board and I draw a bell curve. Okay. You know, a bell curve, right? And I explained to them, look, at the far left end, think of this bell curve as the world's total population. Okay.
Oof.
Here's the world's total population. Here's what we know. At the far left end of the bell curve, there's a very small 0.5% of the world's population. This group are just incredible people for a number of reasons. They could be wealthy, they could be very smart, they could be very funny, whatever. But they're just really incredible people. And if you're lucky in life, you might meet 10 of them in your lifetime.
Wow.
And you're going to know it when you meet them.
Wow. Wow.
You're going to know it when they walk in the room.
Yeah, of
You
course.
just, I mean, some of you listening to this would know people like that right now,
Mhm.
where you go, oh, yeah, that guy's incredible. That lady's unbelievable. I mean, you think Taylor Swift. I mean, I look at a Taylor Swift and go, she's in that group.
She's in that group.
There's a lot of people that would fall into that group. Now, that's the good news.
Mm-hmm.
The bad news is
Mm-hmm.
at the very far right end of that bell curve,
Mm-hmm.
you have a 0.5% of the world's population. They're not good people. And guess what? They're not going to change.
No.
They're Hamas, they're ISIS, they're
Mhm.
dictators, they're corrupt government officials.
Mm-hmm.
This exists
Mm-hmm.
on the far right end of that bell curve.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I look at these students in high school, when I tell them, this is why if you want to live a peaceful life, you have a standing army. This is why the United States has to have an army and a Navy and an Air Force.
Of course.
These people, they're not going to change.
No.
Whatever it is you have, they want, whether they tell you that or not. They
Mhm.
want their neighbors' assets. They're bad people. And so my point is,
Mhm.
they're not ever going to change. So if you go back and look at that bell curve again,
Mhm.
next to the incredibly cool people,
Mhm.
0.5%, there's another 19.5%,
Mhm.
and they're really good people. They're not as incredible as the little
Mhm.
0.5%, but they're good people.
Mhm.
These are the people you want your children to know and
Mhm.
associate with
Mhm.
at school.
Mhm.
When they get up in the morning, guess what? The glass, it's half full.
Mhm.
They're ready to fill the rest of the glass. And
Wow.
they're going to work every day to do it.
Wow.
And you love hanging with them because they're positive. They
Mhm.
believe that attitude is important. They
Mhm.
get up every day and they go, okay, wow, I'm alive. What
Mhm.
can I go do?
Mm.
Now, on the flip side of that, on the other end of the bell curve,
Mm.
you've got that 19.5%. And guess what? When they get up in the morning, the glass is what? Half empty. And they're not trying to fill it.
Awful.
They
Awful.
just
Awful.
don't have the same attitude in
No.
life.
No.
What we would joke
Awful.
about in real estate is we would say, these are the people who run your homeowners association. The- These, these are the people that
Oh my
staff the
gosh.
citywide development office.
Oh,
Okay.
gosh.
They work at the Social Security Administration. Now,
See, see, see.
I don't want to paint a brush, but you get
No,
what I'm saying.
I'm getting. Yeah.
And so what that leaves in the middle
Mm.
is that 60% of the population.
Mm.
And I hate to say it,
Mm.
but Oma, they basically follow people.
Mm.
Okay.
Mm.
they sort of shade one way or another, but they tend to follow people. They're not, they don't get up in the morning and have direction automatically. They sort of just go with the flow. We had a guy who came to speak to us one time, and he was describing these groups, and he said, this group over here, this is the, oh yeah. This group over here, this was the, oh no. And this group in the middle, they were the, okay. But the point is, human nature doesn't tend to change. People tend to do what it is the personalities want them to do. And by the way, personality is one of these things. If you have kids, you're going to teach your kids things: hard work, love, dedication, integrity. These are the things that you as a parent teach your children. But the one thing you don't really impact is their personality. Those little personalities, I'm convinced they're set in the womb. And I can go speak to any number of parents in a group, and I'll ask, okay, how many of y'all have more than one child? You know, a lot of hands go up. And then I say, leave the hands up. Of all the hands up, how many of y'all would say that every single child you have has a different personality? And everybody's hand is still up.
No brainer.
Yeah, no brainer. And so, you know, personalities change, but personalities tend to be wedded to certain human nature prognostications. Okay. And that's why I say human nature doesn't change. People in the long run are looking out for their personal selves. As you move toward this end of the bell curve, they're more magnanimous to realize the better off everybody is. You know, floating all boats helps community and the society. And these people will think that way. But the reality is, once you really understand how human nature works, you're going to be a lot better off in your business, because it doesn't tend to change a lot.
So then, would you, so let's say you're an entrepreneur and you're obviously in the 19%, yes?
Oh yeah.
Okay. You're a creator, you're out there creating a beautiful world, making an impact, influencing, becoming a leader, a mentor, and all these things. Okay. So would you say that, is there any chance at all that this 19%, and this is the question for you to answer, because maybe you've seen it happen, this 19%, potentially they have the ability now, because now they're wired, they're wired a certain way. I call it like a divine blueprint, an extraordinary something within them that woke up to potentially influence their own mind to go towards that 1% in the front of the line. Do they have that potential to become the 1% now? Anybody that is in the 19%?
Yeah, let me,
or not.
You're hitting on something that is very important. Okay. One of the things we train a lot is that if you study really successful companies, if you have a really successful marriage, okay, typically what happens is you've got 3, but most likely 4 ingredients working together in synergy to make this happen. Okay. Let me give you a good analogy. I was in St. Paul, Minnesota about 6 months ago. Thank goodness it was then and not last week. And I had a group of realtors there, and I asked them, I said, let me ask you guys a question. What's it take to run a good restaurant? And of course, you know, I had a whiteboard there. So they started naming things. And when we wrote everything up on the board, it was easy to see that it all fit into 4 basic things,
Mm-hmm.
not surprisingly.
Mm-hmm.
Good food, decent service,
Mm-hmm.
a reasonable price, for what I'm eating,
Mm-hmm.
and a decent location.
Mm-hmm.
I'm only going to, drive so far to get a good taco. And so I said, okay, so good food, good service, reasonable price, good location, right? And they said, yeah, that's it. That's it. So then I said, okay, well, then let me ask you a question. In St. Paul, Minnesota, how many restaurants have been in business for 20 plus years that are not a franchise? In other words, not McDonald's or Chick-fil-A,
Correct.
a family-owned operation. How many have made it 20 years or more? Well, Alma, what's interesting, you could do this in any town, USA.
Mm.
Everybody gets the first 5. Yeah, everybody knows the first 5. It's easy. But then when they get to the second hand, it's amazing how it slows down very quickly.
Wow.
And in St. Paul, Minnesota, they only got to 8 restaurants.
Wow.
So then I turned to them and I said, okay, so what's the population in St. Paul, Minnesota? I said, right at 1 million.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's St. Paul, not, not the town next door, which is huge.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, okay, well, if that's the case, you're telling me that in a town of 1 million people, only 8 people have figured out this formula.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
and that's the eye opener.
Wow.
Because all of a sudden they go, yeah, good point. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I call this the stable table theory. Okay. Stable table theory. If I create a company and I come up with one really great synergistic idea,
Mm-hmm.
that's not enough to give the company stability. Okay. There's other things that have to come into play. I gotta have people, there's other things. So it's like I often say, if you build me a table with 1 leg, it isn't stable. And with 2 legs, it's not stable. With 3, it's a stool, but I wouldn't let my grandson on it. But give me a table with 4 steady legs and we're in business.
Mm-hmm.
So take any company in the USA
Mm-hmm.
and study it long enough,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll see that what they did was they created a stable table inside their company.
Wow.
I mean, we look at Southwest Airlines. A good friend of mine works at Southwest. He's an upper management, good guy. And we were talking about this. I said, look, realize when Southwest Airlines started, the most powerful thing they had going for them was clarity. Okay. The vision of who they wanted to be was incredibly strong. I mean, their whole deal is we're going to run an airline that's inexpensive, that gets people from point A to point B quickly, and it's going to be a great flying experience. And it was. I mean, if you ever flew Southwest Airlines,
all the time,
it's the only airline that you're sitting on where you're laughing if the stewards and everybody that's on it are doing their thing. It's, I flew from Orlando to Austin last week. And when we got on, and I was sitting there and they were loading the plane, and the attendant comes on and says, folks, if any of y'all are looking for the first class section, those seats are blue. Well, of course, all of the seats are blue. But as we're all getting on, everybody cracked up at that.
Awesome.
And so,
genius.
Again, it's just a great flying experience at a very reasonable number. Now, those have changed over the years, but stable leg number 1 for them was vision as to who it is they wanted to be.
Wow.
Because if your vision is strong, I mean, it's like losing weight. if you don't sit there and think about, okay, what's my life going to be like if I lose these 20 pounds?
Mm.
What's the good things about that besides my health?
Mm.
It could be the vanity, how much better you're going to look. It could be
Sure.
the fact that you can now wear half the stuff in your closet you don't even touch. But if the vision about losing the weight isn't strong enough, you won't lose the weight. You won't develop the discipline that it needs to get the habits that you need to lose the weight.
Yeah.
So in starting a company, one of the most important things is that vision. Gary Keller and I started a company, and we went to our agents and said, look, we don't think that the company is the brand. We think that you, the agent, are really the brand.
Wow.
So instead of us building this behemoth company where KW is the brand, it's going to be you guys. We're going to show you how to create your own business, your own team, your own operation. And all we're going to do is take to help pay our bills, but you're going to make the bulk of the money.
Wow.
Now, by the way, we're not going to do any advertising. I mean, we're not going to do it. We're going to give you a better commission split so you're making most of the money, and then you can decide if you think it makes sense to go advertise or not. But if you do, it's your advertising, not ours. And you got to understand, 40 years ago, nobody was doing that. I mean, I had broker friends going, you guys are crazy.
Crazy.
And I said, no, we're not. We think that when somebody's playing golf with their buddies and they're getting transferred to Seattle, that guy turns to his 3 golfing buddies and he says, hey, we're getting transferred up to Microsoft in Bellevue. Any of you guys know a good local realtor? They don't ask, any of you guys know a good big company I can call? They say, hey, do you know a realtor? And one of the 3 hopefully goes, yeah, you ought to call Joe Williams, Keller Williams. He's my guy. He's a great guy.
Wow.
You got his number? It's just like the first time you get pregnant and you got to go find a pediatrician. What you call and ask your friends is, who's your pediatrician?
Of course.
Do you like them? Tell me about them. And so we went to our brokers and said, look, we think that's how people find the realtor they're going to work with. It's not a company-oriented thing. It's an agent-oriented thing. So we're going to design a company where we become your coach and consultant to your company.
Wow.
I had a friend of mine. This is a great line, by the way. He was an ER doc.
Okay.
And he once said to me, he said, you know, Joe, hospitals don't have patients. Doctors do. But doctors work so much better with a surgical center set up at a hospital. So his whole point to me was, what you guys are doing with KW is the same thing. Your agents are the physicians. They have their clients. Those clients don't belong to me. They belong to the agents. And so 40 years ago, when we did that, it was such a vision changing way to look at the business. That was the big key to our success. When we looked at the agents and said, look, I know it's been this way for years. Real estate had been around for 1,000 years, but nobody had ever looked at the industry this way. You know, the example I always give you, and Oma, you're so much younger than me on the Zoom here. I'm 70 years old.
Beautiful.
When I was a young boy, all you could do was get peanut butter in glass bottles. They came in like a ball jar, right? And for years, it all came in a glass jar. And then one day, they put peanut butter in a plastic jar. And yet, you could get ketchup in a plastic squeeze bottle at the drive-in for 20 years prior to that. How did somebody not mentally make that connection for 20 years?
That is so crazy.
And so for Gary and I, it was a case where we looked at the agents and said, this is crazy. Why are we doing all the advertising? This is nuts. You're the brand. We're going to make you the brand. So for us, that first the table leg for us was changing how we did the business from us as the central person to the agent. But every company has to be able to have a vision that is so strong and so guiding that as they follow it, they're going to be successful. It's kind of like when you produce a product, obviously there has to be demand. You know, the old thing about we say, yeah, you come up with something, will the dog eat the dog food? You know, and so with Southwest Airlines, their vision was, we're going to create this great flying experience at the lowest price.
Amazing.
That was the vision. Now, the second table leg for them was better economics. They had to figure out a way to run. And so what they did was, they started out flying from Dallas to San Antonio to Houston. All they did was they had 3 planes in the air all the time because that market was completely underserved. And they realized that. And then as they grew, what they did a lot of things to keep the cost down. Number one, they flew the same plane. And most of the time when you get on a Southwest Airlines jet, it's the same 737. So if a part breaks down, they don't have to fly to DFW to get it. There's a good chance the part's right there in Baltimore or wherever. I fly American Airlines occasionally. Problem with American is they fly 30 different jets.
Wow.
And I've been sitting in Baltimore when the plane broke down, and guess what? They got to fly somebody to DFW to pick up the part to get it back to fix it.
Hours
Right?
and hours and hours.
Yeah. So Southwest was able to economically do a lot of neat things. Fly the same plane. They don't charge for bags. I mean, American, Delta, everybody now charges. They don't charge for bags. You can take 2 bags per person. They don't charge if you got to change your flight. I mean, all of these things for them was table leg number 2, better economics. They figured out a better way to run the airline like that.
Beautiful.
Their third leg is a very standard thing, and that is go get the best people. Just go get the best people. It's amazing how you don't end up with a lot of problems and issues in a company when you've got the most talented people. And I'll share a great little story that your viewers, your listeners will enjoy. In 1993, Gary and I had about 60 offices, Texas, Oklahoma, Colorado, Louisiana, primarily. We're a franchise, okay? And so we hired a guy, Bain Henyon, good guy, came down, he interviewed Gary, he interviewed all of our operating partners, you know, because they own these offices, they're franchise owners. And he came back and he said a couple of things. He said, number one, I love your ideas. I love how you guys are remaking the real estate industry. What he said, number two, y'all don't know anything about franchising. And he's right. I mean, we were the classic entrepreneurs. We've been very successful real estate brokers, but we never franchised anything. And so he sat down and he said, look, franchising is all about 3 things primarily. Go get the most talented operator owners, install models and systems that are consistent so that a Keller Williams office in Austin, Texas functions just like a Keller Williams office in Reston, Virginia. Just like a McDonald's should look and function the same everywhere. And so what he did, he said, first thing I'm going to teach you is how you go find talented people. And by the way, it's a 10-step process to do this. Oma, it takes us
Y-
30 to 40 hours
Sí, sí,
to go through the process
sí.
with a really serious candidate.
Ujú,
And the system is designed as you go through each step,
ujú.
it's designed to knock them out if they're the wrong person. Does that make sense?
Perfect,
Because
perfect sense.
I don't want to spend 40 hours with somebody who,
No.
if I know in 10 hours
Nope.
it's not going to work, and that's how it's designed.
Mhm.
But it's really interesting because just the tips and things that he gave us
Mm.
were
Wow.
just incredible to know.
Wow.
And especially the entrepreneurs. Because I will tell you, entrepreneurs, they're good because they come up with a great idea and a vision and a determination to get there, but they're not always the best managers.
No, of course not.
And they don't always know how to go find the most talented people.
Of course not.
And many times they are not the CEO
Of
or
course
should
not.
not be.
That's exactly
They're the
right.
visionary.
Correct.
And by the way, Bain said that to Gary. Because he said, Gary, you're not the CEO. He said, you're a visionary. And he is. Gary's been a fantastic partner, fantastic visionary guy. But he said, you're not the CEO. And I certainly wouldn't. I'm a developer guy. I'm a sales guy. I'm not the guy to go play CEO. So that was the first thing he told us is
Wow.
go find a really good CEO.
Wow.
And we did. But it was incredible what he taught us about go
Wow.
get the most talented people. So for many of these companies, that third table leg is that. And I think it can be argued anytime you fly Southwest Airlines, they have good people. Whether it's behind the ticket counter, at the gate,
Yes.
loading the luggage, on the plane, they have some of the best people.
Is the
And then
tough? This is such a tough. Probably this third key, because it's the key. I mean, it's a big key to
it's a
the
big key.
success of the company. If you don't have those key people, I mean, it would be a nightmare that never ends.
And there's another part to that. Getting the talented people and acquiring them is very important.
Mm-hmm.
But the way you tie a ribbon around the whole company is the fourth table leg. And for most really good companies, Oma, that's create a culture that is so good that nobody would ever have to leave you.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
Now, some companies, you can't do that. If I'm running a Chick-fil-A, I need a bunch of high school kids in my shop, but they are not likely to be there for more than a year or two.
Sure.
You with me? Now, if I can figure out how to get the manager to stay with me for 15 years, that's what I'm talking about.
Of course.
You're critical people.
Yes.
If you can design a company that every morning they get up and they go, hot dog, I'm going to work at wherever, then you're a long way toward creating that kind of a culture.
Oof.
And, we see it time and again. You look at your professional sports teams, and when you find a team that does extremely well, a lot of it gets right back to what they're saying every time they talk. I love these guys. I love my teammates. I mean, they figured out how to get that culture inside the organization.
It's the glue.
Huh?
The glue.
It's
Like the glue. It's the glue.
You got it. It's the glue.
Yes.
Now, we did something that was really unusual to help create that culture.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, you'll love this. So we get paid by commission primarily. We're real estate guys. I mean, we eat what we kill. If we don't kill things, we don't eat. We go broke. So we went to the agents one day and said, listen, we got an idea. Because in real estate, you're only as good as your last deal. I mean, you're not on salary. Once you close, you got to go close something else. We think we could come up with a profit share program where based on our growth, you guys have the chance to share in the corporate's profit.
Mhm.
And of course, they said, well, tell me how this is going to work. Well, it was real simple. If I'm out there in the field and I come across an agent who works for a competitor
Mhm.
who's not happy, but they're a good agent,
Mhm.
I'm going to sit down and say, you ought to come talk to our manager. I think you'd really enjoy working over at our shop. And so what we did was, if that agent came to our office, interviewed with a manager, came on board with us, whatever the company made, the company split off that agent,
Mhm.
not their commission. They kept their commission.
Mhm.
We would pay a small percentage of that back to you for having made the recommendation.
Wow.
Well, what's interesting, that idea in and of itself
Wow.
is not, a lot of brokers been doing that for years. But here's what's cool. What's cool is if that agent who comes over, if they make a recruiting recommendation and another agent comes on board, I'm going to pay that agent money and I'm going to pay you.
And nobody before did that. Before you got this, nobody else did.
What that looks like is multi-level.
Well, I was going to say multi-level, that's what it binary or not, it looks like that, because that is
Yeah.
the brokerage. I mean, that's what it looks like to me. And then you have
Yeah.
that tree and the branches, and then it keeps
There you
on.
go. And my point is, when I got out of college at Oma, I went to a presentation that somebody did, and frankly, I think it was Amway.
I mean, that's how they work.
Yeah, and the guy was drawing the circles on the board. And at the time I said, I'm not, of course, back then it was primarily soap. That was their big product.
Yeah.
We're going back 45 years here.
Yeah.
But I remember after everybody left the room, I said, you know what? Tell me how these circles work.
Wow.
Because as I looked at the circles, I said, those make obvious sense to me. If you're in a
Totally.
selling business and you're bringing people in because everybody's selling, why can't I make recommendations on people we should hire? And then if you pay me based on what their production is,
Wow.
then that's great. Because now
Mm-hmm.
you get me thinking like an owner,
Correct.
not an employee. Of course, our
Correct.
guys aren't employees anyway. But if I've got a vested interest in how much profit we make every month, because I'm bringing people in and you're going to pay me a percentage of that profit, Dad Burr and I start thinking like an owner.
Like, hey, you're
Well, the
gonna
perfect
start.
example, I'll give you a great example. We have an agent leadership council. They meet every month.
Okay.
If the agents are really invested like owners, and we had this situation the other day, actually 4 months back, we have a copy machine and it's doing pretty good, but it's having issues, right? And the copy machine is pretty important inside your office. I mean, if it's not working, people are not happy. And so we were talking about it. And one of the guys was saying, well, maybe we need to get a new machine. Well, of course, a lot of our agents are in there looking at the bottom line profit going, well, wait a minute. Can we fix? I mean, is there a way to fix this thing? Or how about we go get a 3-year-old machine? You with me?
Of course.
In other words, it now had them thinking like owners.
Of course. Amazing. But that's
it makes a difference. I mean, when you've got a culture where everybody's pulling together with the same vision, it works. And Oma, you can apply this to a lot of things.
Of course.
I mean, I'm talking with a friend of mine the other day, and we're talking about a good marriage.
Of course.
Well, a good marriage works on the stable table theory too.
Oh gosh.
Number one, if you both don't have the vision of why you got together and where it is you're trying to go, well, that's a problem right there. And the stronger that vision is, and the stronger the goals are, the better that alliance is going to be. Because you and I both know you have good days and bad days in marriage. You just do. And it's not the good days you worry about, it's the bad days.
Oof.
Sometimes it's not a bad day, it could be a bad year.
Oof.
There can be a lot of things that impact two people together.
Oof.
So, when you look at the table legs of that, one of them is communication.
I was
Just-
about to ask you, like, so tell me more about the way to communicate all of that, because one of the key of that glue to stick, if you don't have the right communication and the right feeling behind that communication, the right
Sure.
intention, what do you do?
Well, you have to understand something. This gets back to human nature never changes. Now, one of the things that Bain taught us about human nature
Mm-hmm.
is give me a room of 100 people,
Mm-hmm.
Oma. In that room, I will tell you right now, there are 4 basic personalities.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And everybody in that room is going to fit into one of those personalities. So a lot of relationship management has a lot to do with who are the personalities. I mean, that has a lot to do with it.
Ooh.
So, and I'm not saying men are different from women. I think in a lot of cases that's the case. What was the book? Men are from
Mars.
women are from Venus.
Yeah.
Dr. Gray. I just laughed the whole time I read that book.
Yeah.
Because in so many ways, he's absolutely correct about the way.
Of course. I mean, where the brain is wired differently, the woman, you're wired to have children, and so therefore you're gonna be different. But
Yeah.
but when you come back to the human nature, though.
Yeah. So the point about communication is, I always go back and say, okay, what personality am I trying to blend up there? For example, the 4 personalities,
Mm-hmm.
there's Abramson, the guy that came out with a test called the DISC, the DISC.
Of course, I know
the
DISC.
basic
Yeah.
DISC test?
Yeah.
They're all the Briggs Myers. They're all based
Sure.
on the same studies.
Same.
Well, like they said, you got CEO personality, the
Mm-hmm.
high D.
Mm-hmm.
You have the high I. I'm a perfect example of the high I personality.
Yes.
You've got the S, very stable, very patient.
Yes.
And then you got the C, who is the very exacting, cross the T, dot the I, the engineer, the surgeon, the airline pilot, the CPA. They tend to fall into that C category.
Mm-hmm.
So when you put 2 of those together in a marriage, kind of depends on what the personalities are.
Uh-huh.
You with me?
Yes.
Because sometimes the best marriages I see, it's opposite personalities.
Yes.
And they tend to work better together. I laugh because my wife and I are both high I's. So we fight like cats and dogs. Of course, making up is fun, but you know what I'm saying? We've got the same personality, Dad Burnett. And so what we learned from him was how to work with those different personalities. And actually what we did was we took our jobs, looked at the specific job and said, what personality needs to be in that job?
Wow.
And it worked very well. We know for a fact, if I hire a high I in a job that requires massive detail, we got problems. Ain't gonna work. That is not a strength of an I. They make great team leaders, they make good managers, but they got to have a staff out there doing all the detail work because they're not great at detail unless they're like me and they're a Virgo.
Oh, wow.
Virgos are detail oriented, but generally a high I is not going to be your detail person. No. So we learned to take all of our jobs and then move them, define who the personality is we need in that job. And let me tell you, here's why that's really important. Here's a perfect example today. So the pandemic showed up 2020, right?
Yep.
all of a sudden everybody had to go home.
Mhm.
And nobody knew what was going to happen. Everybody was scared to death.
Yep.
Everybody was locking down everything, you know.
Mhm.
And then 4 months later, what we discovered is things really hadn't changed that much. And why? Because for 2 years prior to the pandemic, I was commuting to the office, opening up my laptop, and talking on my mobile phone.
Uh-huh.
When the pandemic hit,
Uh-huh.
now I had to go home, but I opened up my laptop and I talked on my mobile phone.
Uh-huh.
Nothing really changed. Now,
Changed.
that's not totally true, but you get the point.
Of course.
So all of a sudden, we now realize that, hey, not everybody needs to be in an office.
Mhm.
And so in places like Chicago, LA, New York, Miami, where
Mhm.
normally there's some kind of a commute attached, some of these people are working from home, and guess what?
Mhm.
They like it.
Of course.
But, and this is the big but,
Mhm.
as they're going through this right now, of the 4 personality styles,
Mhm. Oof.
2 of those styles really don't work well at home. And it's because it's in their personality not to be home by themselves,
Mhm.
not talking to anyone, not interacting with it.
Mhm.
That is not them. And so my point is, when I'm talking to these office landlords, I'm telling them, look, it's going to take a little while
Mhm.
to work through this
Mm.
flex work environment
Mhm.
to figure out what does it really look like.
Mhm.
And some of these companies are having real difficulty trying to adjust to that. I thought it was incredible to see and this isn't it, but it's like I read it about 3 months ago, Zoom, which we're on a Zoom today. Zoom sent a memo to everybody and said, we need you back in the office. And there's Zoom. So
Wow.
if Zoom can't make it
Wow.
work with everybody out of the office, what does that tell you?
So you pivot. I mean, it was like, you pivot that way with the home situation. And so as far as the human narrative, now we're home and we don't have a community. Did you find it, I mean, obviously very difficult
Well,
because
here's what I would say with our people. First of all, with real estate agents, they were used to working in and around their houses anyway. You with me?
Mhm. Yeah, of course.
So when the pandemic hit, everybody had to go home, but they're
Mhm.
used to being in the field anyway. You with me?
Yep.
So they were able to make those transitions better than most companies.
Mhm.
And today, I think a lot of the companies have realized that it's hard to maintain a culture
Mhm.
when everybody's everywhere else. You with me?
Of
And
course.
in certain businesses, people want to see people and want to collaborate. I mean, if I'm running an advertising firm, you almost have to have everybody there. You with
Mhm.
me?
Of course.
And look, it's the same with Google and Facebook. You know,
Mhm.
they send everybody home.
Mhm.
In fact, who was it? No, I think it was Facebook that said, hey, we may never need you back in the office ever.
Mhm.
Well, that didn't last very long.
Well, that's my point.
Yeah,
So
a lot of them need
Mhm.
the collaboration. If I'm young
Mhm.
and I've just started with a company,
Oof.
how am I going to get noticed if I'm on a bunch of Zooms? Well,
Yeah.
that's a horrible recipe for disaster.
Mhm. Mhm.
So my gut feeling is that
Mm.
within another 18 months, we're going to figure this out, what it's
Mm.
likely going to look like. However, I'm afraid there's a lot of B-class office buildings. I'm not sure what they're going to do.
Mm.
You know,
Talk about this a little bit. What you say was
well,
your
I mean, the
gut
bottom line
feeling.
is whenever you have a tight real estate market, there's a flight to A-class type space. The only thing I can say for certain in real estate is this.
Mm.
Everybody is going to work with less space. That I talk to brokers across the country. Everybody's in complete agreement about that. They're all going to go to less space. Now, the guy who's in a C-class building and he's running a call center, he's there because it's cheap.
Mhm.
He's not moving. He
Nope.
went there because it's cheap anyway. It's not in a great location. He doesn't care.
Mhm, mhm.
You with me? So that part of the
Mhm.
market, I think, is going to do fine. The A-class building, if I'm in a B-class building with 20,000 feet, I'm in my mind going, hey, how can I run this on 12,000 feet? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the A-class building, better location, more amenities, better views, easier commute. And I'm going to go get 12,000 feet. And that's what you're going to see. Now, other real estate,
Absolutely.
other real estate asset classes will be much better off than what the office market is.
You know what I'm seeing, well, locally here in Miami, which is incredible, what the world is opening to is more collaboration. And what's happening, and you're probably witnessing this, is that there are creators that would get a beautiful space, not too big, but a space, and they would create. It's very beautiful. It like a multi-dimensional space to collaborate, like boutique style, community style driven businesses, networking style, very elevated, very classy, where you have a Chanel boutique, you have a jeweler, you have whatever, an artist that would come and would hang their beautiful art on the wall. So they have now those community spaces, collaborative, the high level centers. I mean, it's incredible. And so they would have business owners that would rent a very little square office where they can have their jewelry boutique-ish style, but they would not be able to, they won't have to go, oh, I'm going to open my own boutique. Now there is
Right.
this collaboration happening with all the little business owners within this square, and
Right.
everybody collaborate together. And now I see this in Miami. It's incredible.
Oh, it's the same concept that WeWork had, except they didn't know how to implement it well.
Mm.
But yeah, it's going to happen. An office isn't going to go away. People are still going to get together, make ideas and dreams come true. And you got to get everybody together to do that type of stuff. I mean, it's,
The
well,
world
I
is
always
opening
say
up. Yeah.
one of my, when I'm talking to our agents, I tell them, look, your key success principle is what I call VDPR. Okay. The V is vision. In other words, why are you in real estate? Why are you getting up every morning? What is it you want to try to get done this year? If you don't visualize things, what is it they often say? A ship without a rudder still may go places, it just has no idea where it's going to end up. So the vision is the rudder on your ship. Okay.
Wow.
It keeps you going in the direction you're going to go. And if your vision is really strong, most success, Oma, is just a matter of writing it down and then going and doing it. It's not complicated. Selling real estate isn't rocket science. It's easy to learn. But then why do so few people get really successful? Because so few people have the ability to visualize their success. And it's not just real estate, it's being a good teacher, it's being a good mother, it's being a good pastor. All of those things take the visualization of saying, okay, if I'm going to have an incredible church this year, what would have to happen for me to make that happen? We call that a future self exercise. And it's the process of visualizing what your goals are going to be. Okay. Because if you can really visualize that, you're going to be able to figure that out.
Wow.
Okay. It's what you back up on to be able to know where you're going to go. Because if you visualize, if the vision is strong, Now you acquire the D, which is the discipline
Mm.
to go do the things you got to go do to make it happen. Without the vision, you won't acquire the discipline.
Mm.
Again, you won't lose weight until you think about what your life looks like if you lose the weight. And it's crystal clear to you why you're doing this. Then you're going to be able to push away from that dessert. Then you're going to walk an additional mile or 2 miles. It's not going to be hard. You know what this is going to lead to. So vision, discipline, the P is the easy part. That's just the planning. And what I tell my agents is, you got to write it down.
Mhm.
I mean, here's my week.
Mhm.
It ain't complicated. It's writing it
It's-
down. It's scoring what's important. It's having a little column, the deals, stuff will work. Every week it changes.
Wow.
And the example I give, you'll love this.
Mm-hmm.
I ask people, I say, have you ever gone on a trip for 10 days? And everybody goes, well, yeah. And then I go, well, ask yourself, why were you so productive the 5 days prior to when you had to leave?
Wow.
And the answer is, they had to make a list.
No.
And the rule is, what you write down has a way of getting done. So
beautiful.
So that's the P, that's the planning.
Wow.
So if I've got the vision,
Mm-hmm.
the vision will give me the discipline to go get it done. I'm going to then write it down and get a plan. And you end up with R, which is what? The results.
Amazing.
I mean, that's it. It's not complicated.
Unbelievable.
And the future self exercise,
Mm.
and I haven't even asked this question. Oma, are you married?
Yes.
Okay. So let me give you a real fun exercise. All right. Did I meet your husband?
Yes.
E-Rock. Right?
E-Rock.
Okay. So here's what I want you and E-Rock to do.
Mm-hmm.
This weekend, I want you to go to your favorite place to eat. All right.
Okay.
After you've had your meal, eat a dessert, get yourself an after dinner drink, a nice glass of wine or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And here's what you're going to do. E-Rock's going to look at you. He's going to say, Oma, I imagine that if we were in this restaurant a year from today, and you were able to turn to me and say, E-Rock, this has been the most incredible year of our marriage ever.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Oma, what I want to know is, what would I, E-Rock, have to do for you this year for you to feel that way?
Wow. Amazing.
And I guarantee you're going to be able to make some suggestions to him. And it could be things you're asking him to do all the time. Who knows? But it's a future self exercise.
Beautiful.
Now, by the way,
wow,
that exercise is quid pro quo. Because what's going to happen is you're then going to look at E-Rock and say, E-Rock, if we met a year from now and you were able to say to me, Oma, this has been the most incredible year of our marriage. What will I, Oma, have to be able to do for you to feel that way?
Wow.
And then he's going to give you a list.
Wow.
And those two lists, that's the foundation of your planning this year.
Incredible.
That's what's known as a future self exercise.
Incredible.
When Bain came to us and told us, here's the 10 steps that it takes to go find talented people, that was step number 7. Because by then we knew we were going to make a commitment to them. So we walked them through a future self exercise.
Wow.
So I, as their employer, can totally understand how they define success with us at the company.
Wow. Oof.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool exercise.
Well, I would say it's not this cool. Yeah, it's pretty cool, but it's life-changing, really.
Well, it gives you definition. It tells you where you need to be going, what's important.
because again, like you touched about the 1%, the 1% for sure is there. You know
Well,
what
and
I mean?
some of them, I mean, look, if you're interviewing, Mark Cuban,
Sure.
people like this, well,
I
he's in
mean,
that 0.5%.
what
I mean, the
it's not,
guy has just done it.
it's a no-brainer.
And again, let me tell you, it's not necessarily money.
No, not at
I've
all.
got people I can put into that 0.5%. They're incredible people. Some of them aren't rich at all,
It's not about
but
money.
just who they are
No.
is incredible. And I love the fact that I know them. So, it's just, again, it's testimony to the fact that everybody's going to be different.
Mm-hmm.
And human nature, when it's really cool and really dedicated and really good, it's just fun to get to know them.
Association, right? The power of association. It's in there within your teaching, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, here's what I would tell you. Leverage
Mm-hmm.
for real estate agents. We teach the stable table theory to them. Table leg number 4 for them is leverage.
Mm-hmm.
Who do they know that can leverage their business, leverage what they're doing,
Mm-hmm. Of course.
leverage their personal life? I mean, I'm talking with my daughter last night. I love her to death. She's got 4 grandkids, but she's behind finding a good babysitter. And so it really crimps. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yes, of course.
And if you got kids, you know exactly what I
exactly.
It really crimps their ability to get out and do some things because, if myself or my wife can't watch the little one, we got a little 2-year-old little girl, they can't go anywhere.
For sure.
And sometimes we're busy.
Of
We can't
course.
do it.
So who do
You
you
know?
like? Who do you like? Who can you trust?
Yeah.
That's part of that whole situation of culture.
And I'm just saying, and you understand this if you're a mom, if you're trying to raise a family, having the leverage of having someone who can come in that you like and trust to watch your kids, that's kind of critical for you and your husband to be able to get off and do anything. Without having kids attached to you.
No, there's no
And that's important.
priceless.
That's
priceless.
important.
It's priceless.
It's like I'm telling the guys all the time, and I really get, fellas, if you don't plan date night, it doesn't happen.
No.
It doesn't happen by osmosis.
No. Osmosis. So you talk about gut feeling a while back, and I know where you gave a lot of your energy and time. So I want to make sure that I keep it, too close. But decision making in your industry obviously is a key also to success.
Sure.
And I mean, like in your personal life, let's see, in your business and even personal life, do you have a way? I mean, is this something that comes intuitively to you? Do you really sit in there?
Oma, I think everybody has to learn. I mean, first of all, there was a great speaker, and this is probably before you were even born. His name was Charlie Tremendous Jones. You could probably Google him and maybe see him speaking somewhere.
I'm going to.
But I remember he said something I never forgot. He said, look, everybody is a compilation of the books we read and the people we meet. Yeah. Wow. Today, you would say, because a lot of the books you're going to read will come right off the internet, right? So it's your exposure to knowledge and the people you meet, okay? And so in a decision-making process, what I've learned as you get older, for me especially, I don't make the decisions too quick, okay? In my younger days, I was, go that way. Well, you know what? As you get older, you start to learn, hold on a minute. Don't be too fast. Let's go gather the facts. Do what you can. I always say, do what you can to do two things. Number one, go find experts who know about the subject better than you do. Okay. And you'd be amazed how many people are happy to give you an educated opinion without
It's
having to
true.
pay money for it.
It's
Okay.
true. It's true.
And then the second is start to emotionally, right? Take the emotion out of it and try to be more fact-based. Because for me, I really have to work on doing that. It's like we talk about sales. Okay. Here again, where human nature doesn't change. I tell my agents, the average person makes a decision with either this or this. Okay. Now, statistically, 20% of them will make the decision based on this. They're head people. Tell me how much it costs. Tell me how long it'll run. Can I get a warranty? Can I get this? Can I get that? All the questions are fact and data based.
For sure.
Okay. Now they want to know that you're dependable, but they don't really care whether you're the top guy or not. They just want to know, are you dependable with your facts and data that you're giving me? Okay. And what I call head people. And by the way, they're not all engineers. Okay. But that's how they make their decisions. On the other hand, the vast majority of people, they're more heart oriented. What they want to do before they buy anything from you, they want to like you and trust you.
That's right.
They want to build a relationship with you before they're going to buy the product. Now, by the way, this can happen in the first 3 minutes. My wife and I went shopping for a car. We happened to be down in San Antonio. We stopped in to see what their inventory down there looked like, because it was a big dealership. And I can tell you, within 4 minutes of meeting that salesperson, I would do business with him. I mean, you can just tell.
Yep.
And I'm one of these people, I like to know who I'm dealing with. And so my point is that when it comes to decision making, a head person is more fact involved. Here's a perfect example. Gary and I are two completely different personalities, really. Gary's a head guy. I'm a heart guy.
Yep.
We went to go buy our first copy machine. Gary's in there asking him head questions. How much is the machine? How much is the paper? How much is the drum? In the old days, they had a thing in the machine called a drum. If it went out, you were in trouble. So everybody had to ask about the warranty on the drum and all. And Gary's asking all those questions. Me, I'm a heart guy. I look at the guy and say, give me a list of 3 people that have had this machine for 6 months.
Done.
Because what am I going to do? I'm going to get on the phone. I'm going to call the people. Because that's what heart people do.
That's right.
When a heart person goes to hotels.com and they look at a potential hotel, the first thing they zero in on is the testimonials.
Correct.
Because that's what heart people do.
That's right.
So when you ask about the decision-making process, I will tell you that the person that uses this thinks one way. The person that uses this thinks another way. So if you're a heart person, what I'm always trying to do is to make sure that I'm looking carefully at the facts.
Okay.
Because I'm more apt to make a gut decision based on my philosophy as a heart person.
Beautiful. So you would ask an expert if you don't have all the facts or the information, or you're not an expert at obviously a machine.
Yeah.
Then the solution would be, hey, I'm going to go to an expert and make
and
sure that
of
it
course-
match my heart decision.
And of course, if you're a heart person, it doesn't necessarily have to be an expert. It just has to be someone you can talk to who's on this machine. And there you go. So in my mind, if this guy down the hall's had the machine for 6 months, I can call him and he's likely to give me the straight scoop on, yeah, it's a good machine.
So
or
you're
it's
you're also saying by this gut feeling decision that it could be also a lot faster to get to what you want to get to, instead of all the intellectual facts and the this and the that.
Well, it's just a logical way to help make a decision.
Wow.
It's just like when we buy real estate, we're talking, because real estate's all about value.
Uh-huh.
So it's all about establishing value. You know, what's the value going to be in the future? What is it today? You know, so you're going to talk to a lot of people. They all get that determined. But that's the decision-making process.
You know, it's interesting because the sharks on the set of Shark Tank,
Yeah.
they said the same thing. I said, well, how do you base your fact on making a decision whether you're going to invest in this product or person? They said, no, we don't invest in product, we invest in people.
Yeah.
And that's
Well,
the, you know,
especially there because there's entrepreneurs bringing the product.
of course. And so, of course, the product has to be good. But however, most of them, they would say that they make the decision literally when the person walk there. They don't even have to speak yet. They already made their decision based on that feeling
Yes.
of what they get, which is really intuition, whatever you want to call it, you know. But wow, so it confirms also that's another key to success that I think needs to be developed in business. It's just how conscious you are in that moment and how you feel and listening to that feeling. And you are so brilliant. And I mean, you know, this whole transmission using the words that you used and the light that you use is a book by itself. So maybe take that whole thing and have somebody do the download, you know, and then just turn it as a book. Because you have books, no? You have your own books?
You know, it's really funny. I ran into a guy, and he's a great guy. He's a wonderful author. If I gave you his name, you're going to know who it is. And he's really been after me. He said, Joe, you, of all people I've ever met, you need to write a book.
You know, I mean, we have good friends, you know, Jack Canfield and so many incredible, they came in through the show, and we have, you know, also personal relationship with their incredible human beings, and just, oof, as yourself.
Well, in fact, this guy was Campfield's partner.
Oh, wow, there you go.
Yeah. No, you know, Mark Victor Hansen.
He's in my show. He's actually not far behind you. And if you listen to his interview, I love him so much. And
he's a great guy. He wrote, of course, Chicken Soup for the Soul. Just a really great guy.
Yes. So Jack's been on the show. He's been on the show. Jeff Hoffman. I mean, all the great guys as you are. They've been there. They're just like honey. And I'm just, you know, wow, what a blessing to have you here. This is why I was so honored, because you're part of the you know, of this this thing. This valuable wisdom that you all shared. And they're very, very similar. Your wisdom, the keys to success, is very similar to one to another. Is this what's so impactful? Is because when an entrepreneurs listen to this, they don't listen to something so outside. They're like, wow, if this Joe Williams himself says the same thing that, you know, Jack Canfield and all these people say, must be true. It must be something about it. I need to pay more attention.
Again, I mean, we're all products of the knowledge we've acquired and the experiences that we've had. Because I would say the older you get, the more mellow, you know, I mean, not that I was ever acerbic or anything. I mean, if you talk to people, ask them, who's Joe Williams? Like, oh, he's a great guy. He's funny, great sense of humor, blah, 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 blah. And I don't take myself too seriously. I mean, you know, my life, like a lot of people, you know, my dad died when I was 10. It's mom and the 3 kids. We all went to work. You know, it's a classic story of middle class, working your way up. So you appreciate what you got, but you never forget where you came from, you know. So there's a humility that I think you never lose. I worry more today when I look around and I see that we seem to have lost a lot of civility.
Oof.
You know, certainly in politics. I mean, it's like an MMA fight every night on Fox.
Terrible.
MSNBC. It's just terrible. We gotta get humility and civility back. But with politics, the fear I've got, not that we need to get on another subject, but the fear that I have there is that the jobs themselves have lost their respectability. So when I go to the local high school and I talk to a bunch of juniors and I go, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? Nobody says they want to be president. Nobody says they want to be a senator. And so there's not many issues in life that leadership can't solve. And that's the problem we have at the political level. And the other thing is, and this is another saying I said Oma for years, and I didn't invent it, by the way, but the greatest infectious disease in the world is ignorance.
Okay, take a breath here, because this is actually the core. What you just said, and you're getting to the end of, or we're getting to the end of that bubble, that conversation. What you just said is the core of the whole message. In fact, so that this is the reason that I brought you here, is to have you speak those words of truth to cancel ignorance. What you just said is, I don't even have a word for what it is, because it's like the holy water, you know?
Well, I mean, and that's what you're combating around the world. I mean, it's just, I think about my son-in-law, who was a detective for the Austin Police Department. Prior to that, he was in the Army. He was over in Iraq. And when a bomb would go off, his group would analyze the bomb. He was kind of in the chemical weapons area. And they could find the guy that built the bomb and exploded it. And they bring him in and they would say, why did you do this? And he would say, well, the Quran tells me to do that. So they'd pull out a Quran and hand it to him and say, show us where in the Quran it says to do this. And he would look at him and he would say, well, I can't, because I can't read.
No.
Wow. And again, perfect example of how ignorance,
of course,
bad people take advantage of people that don't know what they're doing. And that causes 99.9% of the misery in the world.
There we go.
So when I'm teaching young people today, I'm telling them, look, your best bet to make it through life is to be able to get yourself educated, and not just in a book, not just your diploma. I mean, my God, I have a degree in real estate from the University of Texas, Austin, and that and $5 will get me a cafe mocha in real estate. Because real estate's a street business. You learn it by doing it. And so much of life is exactly that.
All right.
You learn it by the experiences and the knowledge that you acquire, and you put that together, and that becomes who you are. So ignorance is such a terrible, terrible thing. And that's really what we got to battle today. When I talk about getting civility back, as my mom used to say, you get twice as much with honey as you do with a stick. And there's ways for us to treat and respect each other. Look, it's just like with China. It's the media that plays up this thing with China. Oh, they're bad. They're horrible. And yet you go to China and you talk to the average Chinese guy, he's just trying to raise his family.
Correct.
He's trying to do the same thing we're doing.
That's correct.
You'd be better off going and talking to a lot of these countries and say, look, you're who you are, we're who we are. And we can spend money and get ready to go do battle, or we can figure out how to become economic partners. And you can get what you need, and we can get what we need by creating a system where we collaborate with each other. Now, tell me, what is it you want? Now, I will tell you, if they're bad people, then it's a problem, because they're not likely to change, because human nature. But certainly there are enough good leaders in that country to sit down and say, I get it. I get what you're talking about. So let's go figure out how to collaborate and make this happen instead of shooting missiles at each other. Because that doesn't help anybody in the long run. You know it and I know it. That's diplomacy. That's what you do. That's how you create a vision that everybody can latch onto. Anyhow, I could go on and on, but we have
But this
I
is
have maybe 2 more minutes before I have to
yes,
jump
no.
on
I
another
mean,
Zoom.
so for I mean, thank you. And for the next two, for the last to wrap it up. Yeah, and confirmed, affirmed, commended. A book you should birth a couple of books. I mean, this is almost ridiculous. You should have now plenty of those, but now is the time to do it because so many,
Yeah.
so whatever it is politically that you want to share or share your story, however, real estate related, but you need to put your wisdom there because that's what I'm trying to do my best for you to
Yeah.
be here. So it's recorded once for all. It don't change. It will be done and it's out there.
I
But
get
to
it,
have
Oma. I get
to
it.
have a book with your wisdom, is essential, and that's it. So, the last word that we want to share for humanity is something that you like to see for the wave, the next wave of humanity to look like. Anything that you like to share from your heart.
I mean, the thing I would say at the end of the day, okay, I once took a course. It was put on by a bunch of Japanese guys,
Mhm.
and it was incredible. The word gunpei, what it meant in the Japanese vernacular is that war is business, business is war. And it was interesting because in the course, this guy went around to us and he basically asked us to go home and think about this question. If you found out you were going to die in a week, what would be your greatest fear? Okay. If you knew you were going to die in a week, what would be your greatest fear? And the next day when we came back, these were all CEO types in the room. What was amazing, Oma, is almost all of us had the same fear.
Mm.
And it was this: I died without ever hitting my full potential.
Oof.
Yeah,
Oof.
amazing. In other words, don't waste your life. Do everything you can to get to your highest potential that you have for your families, or your life, or your health. My God, I love Richard Wilson, who puts on the Family Office Club. I love Richard. Every meeting he has, he's harping on these rich, ultra rich millionaires in the room. Guys, your most important asset is, guess what? Your health. What are you spending on your health? You're buying a freaking Lamborghini.
That's right.
And you're not even going down and getting your health checked every quarter. I mean, it's amazing.
Right. Amen. Yep.
It's the one thing I've gotten from him that I think is cool.
It's,
But without your health, you're not going to hit your potential.
no.
So the key is thinking every day, how can I be the best I can be? And if you can do that, let's face it, nobody's escaping this place.
Mm.
What was it? Fred Dyer? I can't remember who the guy was. Said, look, you don't own your body. You're just renting it, you know? So do everything you can to make sure you're hitting your potential. That's how when you're in your bed and you can't get up and you know it's the end, at least you can say, man, I had a hell of a life.
Wow. Incredible. You're listening to someone like Joe, and it gives so much. You can see energically, he speaks from his heart. He's very humble, very genuine. And that's also a key to success and love and abundance, Just showing up like this in your own light, in your own truth, sometimes is enough. Sometimes is enough, and the wisdom comes because of your experience, but it's also there in the first place from your natural truth, from your natural essence, your inherent essence that is always here. Just be you, right? I mean, it's easy to say. And Joe demonstrated that in him showing up. You can tell the background is his own office. He's very humble, very clear And talking about clarity, share that a lot. Vision. You cannot really start something and not know where you're going. At least have a vision, right? So, in the vision, what I found out in my own personal journey is that the vision is very clear, even though the vision sometimes it clears, but it changes a little bit, it doesn't stay exactly the same. So you also have to know to grow with your vision. I think it's very important. Don't get stuck in your way saying, oh, this is the vision and this is exactly where I'm going, because life is going to give you some other path, and it's ignorance to not look at what life puts in the front of you. I think this is also valuable, is that I found out this is like you have a vision, you have a goal, but life might give you other directions. So what do? You're going to push life away, which is nature itself. You're going to put intuition apart and aside of it? No. So you have a vision, but it doesn't mean that this vision is not going to grow into a different outcome or goal, right? So if you do have an intention and create a very, comment tu dis, thick wall around this intention, what happens is that you're going to limit your full potential. And at the end of the day, it's almost like of course, you're not going to be happy with yourself because you're not going to feel content or fulfilled. So you have to dance with the flow of what life brings in the front of you, but also go with your own direct experience and the things you learned about those experiences, the lessons, and go with that. And he said 4 ingredients that he teaches his own team. He speaks a lot in obviously the subject of real estate, but he always wants to go with life, the subject of success, the subject of self, the subject of life, that incorporating all of this in business, of course. So he said the 4 ingredients: stable table theory. That's what he call it. He call it the stable table theory. The number one stability for the table is clarity. If you're not clear, well, good luck. If you're blurry about what you want, it's going to be not possible. So then the second one is better economically. Find something that is better economically, more simple, right? The third one, the best people you can get around yourself to accomplish the things that you want. That's the third one. Really finding those key people is very important if you are going to start a business. And the fourth one that I really truly believe, without this, I call it, when I was speaking to him, I call it the glue of your company, is the culture, to create a culture around what you do. So at the end of the day, it would be to create a culture, but isn't it a culture to create a feeling of being home? If you go to work every day and you don't have this feeling, it's going to be very difficult to go to work every day. I mean, day after day, believe in the same goal after day, you won't be able to survive this. So creating a culture, also realize that this culture must be created within yourself as well. If you're going to want to create this culture in your business, It has to be part of you first. If it's a culture because, oh, you say, I need to create a culture ABC intellectually because I read it in a book and now I'm going to apply it in my business, sure, in my work, but the book cannot teach you the feeling of it. You must have it within yourself first, and then you're going to amplify around you. So the culture is very, very necessary. It's like a music behind the scene. Like, is the music very soft? Find the culture, find the music, the rhythm behind what you create. But it has to be integrated within yourself. That is, you cannot separate you from the things you create, because the things you create is the vibration that is in alignment with you. So think of it, creating a culture for what you do. And it doesn't matter the aspect of what you do. You can be an event organizer. We know that culture is very important, because of course you're going to have a rhythm that go with it. Now, you can create, I don't know, you can build a business around food. You're going to have to create a culture, a rhythm. So what is the essence of what you're trying to create is going to be part of you. What is part of you, not disconnected. So, of course, if you listen to the whole show, it's so much wisdom that was revealed. And one listen like this and going to the next, sure, you can do that. But if I were you, I would make little pause. I would listen to about, 2-3 minutes of the show of Joe Williams was this sharing. And then I would like, I'm going to take, because it's a lot to die. It might seem easy to like this to digest, but it's not. Because you are multiple level of your own self, it takes a while to absorb this knowledge. This is not a knowledge cookie cutter that you just, those are like, the gold of success. Think of it. We're giving you like this, giving you on a platter. Those people that we invite, they're masters, they're masters. And it's like this for you. Can you imagine? You can't put a price on this. So I would say to start to be more intentional when you listen. Don't listen just with the ears. There is a different method to listen, There is a method that is be here now. When you listen, and close your eyes. When you listen, you can take note, sure, but there is another way to listen, to absorb this knowledge. There is a most important ear. An ear, that is the most important ear to listen with is the ear of your heart. There is a cavity in your heart. Think of this ear that receive this knowledge that would create abundance for you. This is for you. This is to enjoy. So, I'm here, and I believe so much in this knowledge that I give like this, because if you're serious about you, if you're serious about where you're going in your life, if you're serious about your success, you would not mess around with those keys. And so, yeah, you're going to listen about a minute or two. You're going to come back later. Just come back to it later. Don't just listen and go, oh, I'm done listening. This is not the kind of listening I want for this show, because this kind of listening, you do it at a lot. And learn the skill of listenings, because those people are not just people, persons. They have they're fountain of wealth, wisdom, health, like this they give. You know, they're gurus, and because they're holding this knowledge. And I'm very happy to do it. And I'm also very grateful, not just for the guest, but I'm grateful for those who are coming here to listen to this and to have a higher experience. It's very simple. Don't make it complicated. So with that, I will make sure to continue to assist and guide you in the process of your own path, higher path, and that it amplify you and your full potential, and then you can access your divine potential. So I'm very happy for that. And I leave you with this, with love, light. Thank you so much for being here with us and listening to this very unique sharing method. Love and light. Merci, merci. Bisous, bisous. À bientôt. Ciao, ciao.
You have just listened to another enlightening episode of Mystical Mavericks. Please visit mysticalmavericks.com for additional resources and to learn more about our mentorship, giveaways, and gatherings. Be sure to subscribe and share so you don't miss the next episode of Mystical Mavericks.